Shabbat Shalom. Welcome back to Take Time for Torah. Thank you for joining us. This week is Parshat D'varim, or also this Shabbat is known as Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbat immediately before Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of Av, the commemoration of the destruction of the first and second temples in Jerusalem, as well as it is really the saddest day on the Jewish calendar. We commemorate this event Saturday night and Sunday with the reading of Lamentations. But here's what I think this Shabbat I'm thinking about. Last week was a horrific week. We saw an attack on Israeli tourists in Bulgaria. We saw the horrific attack by one individual at a midnight showing of a movie. And we also see the continuing violence in Syria, the civil war. And unfortunately, the International Olympic Committee did not and has not yet seen fit to allow for a moment of silence at the beginning of this year's Olympic Games to commemorate and to remember the 11 athletes, the 11 Israeli athletes who were killed during a terrorist attack during the 1972 Munich Olympics. And I'm thinking about all of these calamitous events that have occurred to us over this last week and thinking about what is our reaction to this. Well, Parshat D'varim begins to give us an understanding. Ele D'varim, these are the words of Moshe. Moshe will begin now a series of speeches throughout the book of Deuteronomy, reminding the Israelites of who they are, where they have come from, and where they are going, and what are their values as Jews and as a community. And perhaps that's something that's very, very important, is that we have to always maintain our values as individuals. You know, my first thought when I heard about the attack in Aurora, Colorado, was I hope they didn't catch the guy and the guy was killed. And that was my piece of vengeance on this man for killing and snuffing out these lives of these individuals who all they did was go to a movie. But as I stepped back and I thought about that for a moment, that's wrong. We should not be seeking vengeance. Instead, we should be seeking justice and righteousness. How do we do that? Through our court system. I hope that the man has his day in court. I hope that he's found guilty of charges, and I hope that he's punished appropriately. That's my hope, because as a Jewish community and as a larger society, we have an obligation to live justly and to do justly. And I think about that in terms of this Saturday night as we commemorate Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of Av. It is the destruction of the temple came about, yes, because of geopolitical forces, but it also came about because the Israelites did not stand together as a cohesive society committed to justice. The politics were unbelievable. The politics were terrible. But that's the piece that we have to remember. There is something important. Our tradition teaches us to live justly, to walk modestly with God, and to do God's will. Perhaps that's the reason the Haftorah that we recite this Shabbat from Isaiah about Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbat of vision, gives us a vision not of what the past was and our destruction and our mistakes, but a vision of the future, of a future in which we can live in a just society because we have made it a just society, because we have stepped back from the moment of emotion and instead acted justly. We have stepped back from the moment that we desire to take vengeance, and we have acted righteously. That's what's most important in our community. I think that it gives us a vision for the future. So this Shabbat, as we celebrate Shabbat, as we celebrate the amazing opening of the International Olympics in 2012 London, this amazing event that brings athletes, hundreds of athletes and coaches together to compete with sportsmanship, with kindness, and in a fair manner, with a competition that really is an example of what could happen if we as a world would come together in unity. We cheer for our athletes for sure, but we hope that each athlete does their best. So this Shabbat, I encourage you to take a few moments to reflect on that idea. How is it that we do our best and succeed? But at the same time, how do we support our fellow athlete, our fellow colleague, our friend? How do we help them succeed and do the best that they can do? How do we step back from the brink of destruction and instead become a force for construction, a force for goodness and righteousness in this world. Tisha B'Av reminds me that we have to work towards righteousness, justice, and to walk modestly with God. Shabbat Shalom. I look forward to seeing you next week.